Hello and welcome to another day in paradise, and welcome to another edition of the Unapologetic Nagrobian. Who is stealing Africa's wealth? How are they doing it? And how can we, as repatriating Africans, help in stemming the flow of wealth out of Africa and keeping it inside of its borders? We're going to go into this today, but first I'm going to ask you to please like, subscribe, share and click the bell notification. So if you're watching this program, it's highly likely that you are planning to move back to the continent. You're looking to move back for whatever reason, to reconnect with your ancestors, or just to get away from the hustle and bustle of life, or to immerse yourself in blackness. I've been promoting a lot of African countries on this channel and giving a lot of information over the last year. However, we cannot ignore the elephant in the room for any longer. 5 of the world's top 10 poorest countries lie within the border of Africa. So the question is, who's taking this wealth? Where is it going? And how are they doing it? I think in order to answer this question, we need an example. We can't just put a blanket over Africa and say that there is only one reason and one solution as to how and why this is happening. And I don't think that there is a clearer example of this happening than what is happening in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The DRC is by far the world's richest country when it comes to natural resources. The GDP per capita is $560 per annum. Now that's crazy. Nigeria, for instance, with a population that is almost 3 times that of the DRC, has a GDP per capita per annum of $2,200. That's almost 4 times the wealth of the DRC average citizen. Resources under the ground inside the DRC has been estimated by the World Bank of being anywhere around $24 trillion. The Congo's wealth has enough minerals, gold, copper, tin, metals, precious metals, diamonds, in order to propel it from being one of the poorest countries in the world to being easily the richest country in the world. For instance, the 24 trillion number I told you about earlier. Saudi Arabia only has under its ground $3 trillion worth of oil, and it's one of the world's largest exporters. 3 trillion. Now you can see that there is something glaring in the face when you hear about that. The Congo's wealth is being systematically plundered in a process that we are going to go into right now. In order to find out what's happening in the Congo, which, if we remember, is still just one example of what's happening all over Africa. In order to see what's going on inside the Congo, we actually have to ask ourselves, well, what's going on outside the Congo? Who are its neighbors? Because it's the Congo's neighbors, you see, who have a lot to do with the destabilization of the country. There are outside entities that we're going to go into a little later. But first, we're going to have a little look at Rwanda. Yes, little old country of Rwanda. Rwanda has become a beacon of hope lately. A lot of other African countries have seen the country as being a model African country. Beautiful, peaceful, clean, and people, although they have a small GDP per capita, people live a reasonably good quality of life. Paul Kagame has been reasonably successful at bringing the country into a place where it can be satisfied that it's building a good future for the rest of the Rwandan people. However, it has come at a cost, and it has come at the cost of the Congolese people. And the Congolese people are paying for it with their blood. After the Rwandan genocide, a lot of those people that committed that genocide, they escaped next door into neighboring Congo after they did it. Now, a lot of them are living as refugees inside the eastern part of the Congo. So, you have these murderers who are there, who committed all these heinous crimes during the massacre 20 years ago. Now, the problem is that they escaped with their families, their loved ones, older ones, people who are civilians, who had nothing to do with what happened. Paul Kagame knows two things. He knows that the people that murdered his people are living next door in eastern Congo. He doesn't know who exactly they are. But you see, it's much easier when you go in and you just use a genocide, right? Because at the end of the day, you're going to get a lot of... but he doesn't know who exactly these people are. So he uses a process of extermination we all know as genocide. Yeah, there's a lot of collateral, a lot of men, women, children, babies who are getting murdered systematically in this way as revenge for what happened in Rwanda 20 years ago. Paul Kagame has been smooth talking his way around the United Nations, letting people know that, hey, there are terrorists next door. We need to deal with them. Look at what they did 20 years ago. We need to do something about them. So we're going to send our security forces in there to defend ourselves against these ruthless people who are going to come back one day and murder all our people again. He goes in under that pretext, but the reality is that he wants more than just revenge. He wants what's under the soil. He wants that coltan. Rwanda is the world's #1 exporter of coltan. Sure, you know what coltan is. If it wasn't for coltan, it's unlikely you'd be even watching me on your device right now. It is an absolute necessary part of all electronic devices. We use it as circuit boards. Everything runs on it. We wouldn't have the devices that we have today if it weren't for that one mineral. And it is the most plentiful, the best grade in the eastern Congo. And all the mining companies, the Western mining companies, the Chinese, they all know about this, and they all want a piece of the pie. The reality is that Paul Kagame is a gangster, a murderous gangster, who is literally using his power of influence in the UN and in the area to enrich his country. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, okay, well, he's doing what he's doing, but look, he's spending the money on his country. There is nothing that you can do. There is no way you can justify the murder of children. There is nothing you can do for that. I found this segment on the internet. Please take a listen to this.
I don't think Rwanda is, that's what many analysts are saying, but I don't think that's a major concern of Rwanda. Paul, there is no dearth of evidence in terms of Rwanda's complicity in war crimes, crimes against humanity, the destabilizing, the pillaging of the Congo. So there's just an abundance of evidence. The evidence of Rwanda's complicity in the Congo is not the issue. What is the issue is that in spite of Rwanda's crimes in the Congo, it continues to get cover from the United States, from the United Nations, from the United Kingdom. And this is where the problem lies. There's a lack of political will on the part of the world powers that are protecting Rwanda to act against Rwanda. When I say act, I mean sanctioning Rwanda, the UN. Rwanda has violated UN embargoes. putting high-level officials, Rwandan officials, on the sanctions list. They've been identified and named for their role in destabilizing the Congo. So this is where the issue lies today. That illicit network that Rwanda has in the eastern provinces of DRC is still intact. And that's where we really need to focus.
What else are you asking? Oh, wait a minute. How can he just go into a neighboring country? Who's the president of the Congo? What's he doing about this? Well, he's doing nothing. Why would he? He's Paul Kagame's friend, after all. And he knows exactly what's happening. Of course. If anything, he's been helping the Rwandan army to commit this genocide inside the same borders of the Congo, of their own land, of their own country. They've been calling it an anti-terrorist operation. Blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that. It's total garbage. The Congolese president, Felix Tshisekedi, is just as implicit in the murder of what's happening in his own country. These two people should be tried for war crimes, not being given awards for peace and nobility. As you could see in this clip, they have the full backing of the UN, the United Kingdom, and all the big players in the world that simply need those resources in order to survive. They need those resources and they need them cheap. Rwanda is nothing more than just a conduit for the Western powers to gather control of African resources coming out of the Congo. And like I said before, this is just one small example of what is happening throughout Africa. I mean, we can talk about Namibia if we want to. We can talk about even South Africa still. The riches are not being shared amongst the people. It's being shared by the 1%, and that's it. What can we do as repats to make a change? What kind of an impact, a realistic impact, can we have on the African continent that will make it a better place for its people and make sure that its resources are shared amongst the people? To tackle the problem, we have to look at things both strategically and realistically. For long-term improvement, we will need to start right now building those institutions that will help safeguard the resources and put them back into the hands of the African people. This is why I was talking about the Exodus Alliance only a couple of days ago, of it may not being so much influential and important now, but in 10, 20, 30 years from now, it can be something like that. It can be the go-to institution that people will look to, that will influence governments throughout Africa and hopefully get those resources back into the hands of the people. In the short term, all we can do is educate people on what we know. All we can do is learn ourselves of what is happening in Africa. It's really important to research this type of thing. This is, I think, the second video that I've made about this. The first time I made it, I wasn't aware of it. So somebody had to educate me about what is going on in Eastern Congo and what is going on in Namibia and what is going on in South Africa. I learned these things, okay? And once you know these things, you can then disseminate that information to all your loved ones and throughout the African diaspora, so they know that their help is always going to be needed. If we shout out loud enough, we can tell the world about these atrocities that are happening inside Africa and make sure we can hold these leaders to account for their actions. I'm sure that change will happen in Africa, but it's up to both the continentals and the diasporans who are moving there to know their power and implement change. So what's your thoughts on this? Do you have maybe another solution as to how we as diasporans can help in changing Africa, influencing its leaders? Do you know a way that we can help in stopping this genocide in Africa, in the Congo, as soon as possible. Please let me know in the comments section. It'd be really good to speak to you guys about this, and well appreciated as well. And then let's see what we can do together. Okay guys, I'm going to leave it there, but thank you again for listening. Thank you once again to the new subscribers for coming back. Keep watching this space, and I'll see you in the next one. Think twice. Ta-ra a bit.